Hi, thank you so much for joining me today. We are back after quite a lengthy break with our Express webinar sessions. To those who are new, my name is Deimante. I am your Teamhood coach. And today I want to help you unlock actually one of the most powerful features we have in Teamhood so far, the ability to connect multiple boards and view a project from different perspectives. So we recently released a feature update, as probably most of you already know, to our already very well-liked sync copies functionality. And right now, this feature is even more powerful and even more customizable to each of your needs. So my goal for today is simply to help you see and visualize how to put it in use and give you just a very practical example of how it works. So yeah, to begin my demonstration, let's all imagine that there are 3 different layers in your organization when it comes to project management. So the first layer is usually the PMO office. So people who are probably from upper management who are focused on managing multiple and all the projects that are happening across the organization. What they generally want to see is the status and a couple of other high-level information points about those projects all in one place. So just like I have right here in my PMO overview board, this is the typical structure for a PMO officer to have a setup of kind of a portfolio overview of their project. So what we have is different projects created as items, and then it's also good to break them down and diversify them by either a year for when this project is happening, or maybe in another type of grouping, and just to make it more organized if there are a lot of projects happening in the company, which is sometimes the case. And then additional information, data fields used to determine the status of the project, an assignee. So in this way, it's going to be a project manager responsible for this particular project. Also, we have values like estimation, percentage, tracked time, overall health of a project, budget if it's allocated, and also internal cost if you calculate how much it costs you internally and then compare it with the budget. So this is an example of how PMO officers view their projects and structure their projects in one place. So very high level, this kind of bird view of all the projects in one simple board. If they want to specify it just a little bit more, each project can have their own milestones listed as child items. So for example, Project Jupiter might have milestone for the initiation stage. Oh, sorry, typo. Let me just fix that quickly. Initiation. And then we can have another milestone for the implementation part of a project. So that's already one of the bigger tasks to complete. And under that implementation task lies more complex structure. But this is already not the PMO officers' care. It's something that project managers are going to focus as they dive further into the project. So I'm just creating another key task. So we see that Project Jupiter just consists of those 2 milestones for initiation and the implementation task. We can collapse it, we can expand it however we want, but it's just a general overview of the project. Now, going forward to the second dimension and second persona, that is focusing on making a project happen. So we're talking about project managers already. So people who are responsible for this particular project, for making it happen, and they already want to have quite a different structure. Let me just show you really quickly by breaking down the screen into 2. So over here on my left side, we have the PMO overviews board, high-level overview of all the projects as items. And then on the right side, I have another workspace for project managers already, where they focus on each project individually. They break it down into stages like initiation, planning, implementation, support, maintenance, and others. And all those stages, they have their own tasks that are needed to reach the milestones listed in PMO officer's board. So this is the second structure. Now, probably naturally, a question arises how to effectively manage the progress of a project in both boards so that neither the PMO officer would have to always circle back to the PM asking for updates on Project Jupiter, Project Mars, and so on. And then the project manager, and they probably wouldn't also want to always log into PMO officers' workspace to their board to just adjust the status and change the progress manually. So that is why synced copies is something that will be just a lifesaver for you here, as all the process will simply be synchronized and automated. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to land the milestones, both the initiation milestone and implementation task belonging to Project Jupiter in Project Jupiter's board, and they will be connected, meaning that if you make any change for this milestone in Project Jupiter, the same change will reflect in PMO officer's board immediately. Now, before setting up this synced copy, this is part of the improvement that we added to the synced copies feature. Now, every time when you go to your workspace settings in item fields and click in configure synced copy fields button, you will be able to determine what kind of fields you want to sync. So previously, we had only 3 fields that were synced by default. So that was estimation, status, and schedule of a task. Right now, it opens you kind of the doors to way more creativity and way more complex structures when it comes to synced copies, because you can select what items, what fields you want to skip, what you want to copy, and what you want to sync. So before creating synced copies, just remember always workspace settings in both workspaces and determine what kind of data fields you want to sync. If it's, for example, a tag, in a PMO officers in the portfolio overview board of a project, you might be using one type of tags to determine maybe the quarter in which this project is relevant, or the scope of the project, or just information that is essentially different to the tags you would use when you already focus on that project specifically. So you might want to skip this. But when it comes, for example, to custom fields like internal costs, in my example, this is something that is relevant throughout all the boards and all the dimensions of a project. And it's usually something that comes back and is generated from the ones that are executing the project. They calculate the costs that have already been spent, and then the management, the PMO officer, can view it in their workspace, in their board immediately, because you copy and sync this field. But with custom fields, you also have to be quite careful here. Notice how in both workspaces, I already have created the same custom field with the same title and with the same type. So it's a number and internal costs. If you create it a little bit differently, if you give it a different title, it might be that fields won't sync because the system will simply not bind an identical placeholder for the data to land. So make sure that they're both in both workspaces, the fields, and they're both synced. So now that we have this established, we can go back and create the set synchronized copies. So I'm going to go to initiation milestone details, adding relation, create a synced copy, and I'm just going to choose Project Jupiter initiation part. You already see that milestone initiation task has been created with this little icon over here showing you that this is a synced copy. We will do the same with implementation as well. And this time I'm going to choose another row, another stage already for the implementation. It's here as well. So now with that milestone for initiation, the project manager can already begin planning their tasks prior to reaching this milestone. So naturally, some things have to be completed before the milestone is reached. Let's just imagine that the tasks have been completed and the milestone has indeed been achieved. What we do is we click it, mark it as completed, and you immediately see that in the PMO officer's board, this milestone completes as well. So you don't have to do the changes manually. It's just very efficient, and you just get real-time updates on project data. Now, this was something that you already previously could do because it's the status of a task of a synced copy. But where we brought more power is synced copy aggregated values. So I'm going to demonstrate you with the implementation synced copy of this milestone, how those aggregates work. So I'll just expand it so that it's better seen for you. So let's say that implementation task, it's quite a huge task, and it was taken down from the PMO overview board as kind of this summary of what the implementation is about. So the project manager, naturally, they might want to differentiate it into other tasks. What you can do is you can simply create child items, do the synchronized copy, and then you might want to indicate that task 1 internally will cost you to complete 1,000 euros, and task 2 is probably going to be a bit more expensive. So let's just add 2,500. In total, the values are aggregated from child items in total to the 3,500 euros. For the implementation internal costs, you can immediately see that the same values are synced back from both items, aggregated to the parent synced copy and synced back to the original item, which is implementation in PMO overview board right here. So this is how it works. This is the structure and the power of synced copies of 2 dimensions and 2 personas. So PMO officer and project manager. But I promised you 3 levels. So the 3rd level is something that we're going to cover right now. The 3rd level is, let's say that for Project Jupiter, Project Mars, Project Tulip, there are multiple teams that contribute to making this project happen, but they contribute to different aspects of that project. So the 3rd persona I want to talk to you about today is functional team leaders. Let's imagine that we have security team and we have design team in our organization who are both contributing to all of those projects. Now, security team leader, they might not necessarily want to go to each project board separately, find the tasks that are relevant for their team, and then have their team members browse through the all of different projects and just to find the tasks that they have to work on. They will want to have all the tasks from different projects created in another board, which the board is already going to be a place for all the team tasks to land. And it's not probably going to be grouped by projects. It might be grouped by something else, like internal tasks, external priorities, and so on. So what the project manager will do naturally in this case is, if task 2, for example, for Project Jupiter is something that requires contribution from security team, they just again add a relation and send it to security team's workspace so that the team leader can assign the work to relevant people. So the task 2 is created as a synced copy. So right now we have this kind of web and structure going on. We have a synced copy of a synced copy across 3 different workspaces, across 3 different boards. And now the team leader of a functional team can go further and specify add tags, assign people who will be working in their team on this task in particular, but they've chosen not to sync tags, they've chosen not to sync assignees. So this information won't transfer back to the project manager's board because for the project manager, it might be irrelevant. They, again, might be using different tags, and they might assign the team leader here instead of the team member who's actually going to be executing this task. Once this task 2 gets completed, gets out of the way for the security team, we can immediately see that it was completed in the project manager's workspace and the project board as well. And it also got completed in the PMO overview board. Let me just scroll it. Yeah, we'll just expand it for you. So we see that milestone initiation was completed and the implementation task was 50% completed because task 2 is 50% of the implementation synced copy, because we also have task 1, which hasn't been started yet. So that aggregates to 50% of completion for the original item. And over here, we also see with this icon which fields are synced and which are not. So this is briefly the illustrative example of how you can find use of this feature. I want to remind you once again that this is a feature that can be found for users that have Ultimate or Enterprise plans. Regular users will continue having those 3 synced values, but if you want more power to the customization, Ultimate plan is something that will make it happen for you. So that's it from the theoretical part. I see that we have a Q&A box popping with one question from Jennifer. Okay, if anyone else also has questions, feel free to submit them here. We have a couple of spare minutes. So let's go with Jennifer's question. What about status sync? Can I sync the status across workspaces? Yes, you can. But you also have to be mindful that the status across workspaces are also similar or identical to the status from one workspace to another. If you have, for example, in project manager's board, you have more statuses, not just to do work in progress completed, but maybe your work in progress is also divided into work in progress, quality assurance, feedback. So it's already 2 additional statuses, and they might not be present here because milestone to do, doing, and done are just the 3 statuses in another workspace, meaning that the second rest ones, so the quality assurance, the feedback statuses that you have going on in another board, in another workspace, they will not be synced because, again, the values don't match here. And for the PMO officers, it's also probably not too relevant to find out in which work in progress status this milestone is currently at, whether it's in quality, whether it's still in progress. In general, they just want to see whether it's to do, whether it's doing, or it's done. So yes and no, but make sure that if you want them to sync identically, they have to represent identical status in both workspaces. And also, can I sync tracked time? Yes, you can. You can choose what kind of values you want to sync again. Over here, workspace settings, item fields, and yeah. So we have the estimation and the track time. I'm not seeing it right now, but you should be able to sync it as well. Yeah. Okay, any more questions, or the third one? Okay, almost missed the anonymous. If a kind of off-topic question is allowed, of course, always. The estimated time from sub-items adds to the parent item, but this doesn't show on the workload page. So the estimated time field isn't really filled out, but can be seen in a list view. Let me just read it one more time. Yeah, so it's if we're talking about estimated time adding from sub items to the parent item, it sometimes will not be visible. Let me just open another board. For example, in your Kanban board, we have task 1, task 2, and we can add the estimation. Just very quickly, we can estimate 2 hours and 4 hours. So the total estimation adds up over here in your Gantt chart. But if you click on the item details, the estimation here won't appear because this place is for you to add manually. So if you don't want to enter time for the implementation task itself, it's better to just see the total amount in the Gantt chart like this. And I will have to check probably after the meeting how it's working with the workflow report, as I don't have it enabled in this workspace for me right now. But we will get back to you with more clarifications on this in the post-webinar communication if it's still unclear. But yeah, essentially, for subtasks, this is how they aggregate. If you keep it blank for the parent item, then they aggregate to the parent item. But if you add some changes and you indicate that, for example, this parent task takes 1 hour, the subtasks values won't sync because the system automatically assumes and takes manual input as the source of truth here. Okay, any more questions? Yeah, I see that was answered as well by my colleague. Camilla is typing and helping me out. Great. Anything else? If everything else is clear, I really also encourage you to try it out, to try out the example I showed you. I understand that each company is different, so you might have different approaches to it. Feel free to book a training with us if you didn't find the exact replica to your situation in this session. Just click on the question mark, book a training, and we're going to have a one-on-one session talking about your specific needs and how we can make that happen with synced copy aggregates and synced copies in general. And also knowledge base and learning videos is something when you can resort to if any questions arise as well. Yeah, from my side, that's it. Thank you so much all from your time. And it was great. It was a pleasure catching up, and see you in the following sessions.